I was always told all my life I was stupid. I was dumb, right? My dad was a laborer, hardworking, kind of nose to the grindstone, work his knuckles, to blood. And he always shamed me for not being able to do that, not being able to like build a fence or swing a hammer. He always called me too soft and all these things, right? But he also would literally say that I was, dumber than a bag of hammers. So it's funny in things like this. I just want to at least put myself first on blast is things like this. I'm showing up here for all of you. There is those parts of me that are like, did you say that right? You kind of sound stupid. I mean, should you even be doing this? Like you're a bit of an idiot. Dad always thought we're dumb. And I tend to those parts. And a lot of my healing has been reminding myself that I'm not an idiot. I'm not stupid. I'm capable, right? I'm able-bodied and I'm worth it. So a big thing that a lot of you probably have struggled with is internalizing the feelings of being unworthy. And what that might look like for each person is entirely different, right? Maybe you find yourself never being able to ask for a raise or change your job, never asking your needs to be met in a relationship, maybe constantly finding that you're in a perpetual abusive relationship pattern, whether mentally, physically, narcissistically. That's a made up word. But all of it does come down to self-worth because how we were spoken to as kids, how we were treated, what we were made witness to, how we were physically treated, the boundaries that were crossed that we didn't even know should have been crossed, everything, right? You name it. You guys all know your lives and how you were treated. In that, the one thing that is proven and shown to us is that we don't have the worth of being respected, acknowledged, nurtured, and cared for in the ways that we truly needed. Now, what I will say is this workshop isn't going to sit here and demonize all of our parents or our grandparents. It's not about pointing fingers. I love to give space to all of those parts that need to blame, that do need to finally get that rage and anger out, right? Because you were a kid. Nothing was your fault as a kid. I do want that to be known. Nothing was your fault as a kid, no matter what generation you're from. But there is a responsibility now as an adult to start to do for yourself what your parents or caregivers, or even maybe society at some level, should have done for you. And once again, this workshop is going to hopefully show you the initial steps on how to do that. So the whole point of this workshop is to spread the gospel of you, if you will. For any of you with religion trauma, I'm sorry if that's triggering, but is the words that come from the therapeutic model of internal family systems therapy or IFS therapy. Show of hands or thumbs up. Has anyone ever heard of IFS therapy or Richard Schwartz or No Bad Parts or Parts Work? Any thumbs up? Yeah, Mark. Yeah, you have. Cool, man. Yeah, you have as well. Cool. So it's crazy because it's actually a 30-year plus therapy model that's been completely clinically approved and celebrated, but it's still kind of on the fringe of trauma healing. In 2022, and you can Google this yourself, in 2022, they did a massive study, they being the Internal Family Systems IFS Institute, did a study that showed when 13 people that were diagnosed with complex trauma, CPTSD, when they were put through 16 weeks of IFS therapy, out of those 13, 12 no longer met the clinical diagnosis of CPTSD. And that is a published report. And that thankfully kind of substantiated all the years that every IFS practitioner and clinician always knew was like this model works. And so thankfully over the last 3 years, it's become far more mainstream. A lot of you have probably tried EMDR. A lot of you have probably done a lot of basic talk therapy, right? CBT, DBT, and maybe some of you haven't. There's a lot of people that have never stepped foot in a therapy office. No shame there. I don't blame you. Trusting is probably a challenge, right? Asking for help is probably a challenge. But if you have done any kind of therapy work, chances are it's at EMDR, CBT, DBT. But what makes IFS different? What makes it so effective? What made it change my life? And what makes it change the lives of all my clients is that we finally, for the first time, are able to learn about our behaviors from a actual psyche-based neurological level, and we use the word parts to kind of label those things. So there is a part of each of our psyches that does something to protect us. They people please, they rage, they drink, they smoke pot, they overeat, they push people away, they become workaholics, they become success driven, right? There's all of these protective parts within us that we think is just us. Like, oh, I'm just Andrea, this is just me. Oh, I'm Chrisana, like this is who I am. I'm Jay, I have anxiety, right? Oh, I'm Caitlin, I XYZ, right? We often self-identify as this one thing. I'm a people pleaser, I'm a rageaholic, I'm a workaholic, I'm type A, right? I'm OCD, I'm a control freak. Whatever kind of label we give ourselves, that's because we've been kind of conditioned as a society to think of ourselves as one thing. So IFS comes in and admittedly stirs the pot and makes a lot of us think we're crazy by actually saying we all have multiple personalities. So a personality trait, is just a part of our psyche that has learned to adapt to our environment and has helped us act and react a certain way out of self-protection. When we have trauma, that self-protection is more than somebody who maybe doesn't. But people with CPTSD or PTSD have parts. So do people that had really good lives, really safe, stable, safe, normal lives, right? Something a lot of us probably wish we had and we didn't. They also have parts because we're human beings. So for the first time ever in an actual clinical therapy model, there's finally someone saying we all have parts. We're not crazy for having multiple parts. It finally helps us make sense of ourselves at a really deep level. Right. So I'm kind of rambling a little bit. I hope you're staying with me. But one thing that makes it so crystal clear is relationships. It's a relationship that is maybe going south. I was married for 10 years. I didn't want to be. So one part of me wanted to leave. One part of me just had to stay. Right. One part of me wanted out of there. One part of me hated being around in that relationship. One part of me was frozen and stuck and was so scared. Just even in that, does that kind of make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Right. And that word, you probably say it with your friends over a beer or coffee. I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, yes, there's this part of me that just could fucking flip out at her. Or, yeah, then there's this part of me that just like, oh, totally like melts because they did this thing. Whatever we use the word part. One part of me hates my job. One part of me is grateful for it because it puts food on the table, right? Anything that you can say in your life, you probably recognize, like, oh, yeah, I guess I've used that word part, like we all have. And that's also what makes this really special and really approachable, because it's not scientific and clinical. I mean, it is at the foundation of it, but in the everyday use of it, it's so accessible. Yeah, part of me feels really scared right now and on edge, but a part of me also feels encouraged, and a part of me is ready. A part of me wants this, right? A part of me is so afraid of getting hurt again, but a part of me just wants to trust, right? Does that kind of make sense again? Kind of just feeling that, sensing that? Yeah. So that's what this is. It's okay. So there's a part of me that wants something, is afraid of something, is pushing for something, is yearning for something. And there's other parts of me that maybe do the opposite. And that's where anxiety, that's where internal battling comes into play. That's where depression comes into play, because we have this whole dynamic happening inside of us. And we're kind of a victim to it. We're this like passive observer to these parts that are fighting for our attention, that are trying to protect us, that are wrestling the steering wheel away from each other. And we're just there in the passenger seat being like, who am I? I'm lost. I feel broken. And all it is these parts of us that need us to be able to communicate with them, and to have actually a leader go to them, a mature, responsible adult go to these parts of us and say, slow down. I'm here. You're not alone. You seem really stressed. Let's talk. Right. And as much as you guys have probably done that for a friend or a lover or a spouse or a child, right? If any of your parents, you've been there where you've had to get down on one knee and be like, what's going on? I'm here. Your mom's here. Dad's here. I'm listening. That's what we can do for ourselves at any given moment. So again, just to kind of reiterate, that's what this workshop is to hopefully explore. I'm definitely going to do Q&A. There's going to be a couple practical exercises that I'm going to invite you guys to try. But so far, are y'all with me? Thumbs up, like kind of the language, even it kind of making sense. Like maybe you feel yourself nodding your head. Yeah, Mark, raise your hand there. Yeah, cool. So one of the things that I do want to go over, not to make it too clinical, but I want to make sure that it helps you get the foundations of what makes you you, so that if anything, you walk away and you can even maybe use some of the language that we talk about today, in the sense of, yeah, there's a part of me that is obsessed with them and won't stop checking their social media, even though they broke up with me, and I'm feeling pretty shameful that I do that. I've been there, right? Or there's a part of me that likes to kind of eat behind closed doors when everyone's in bed and no one can judge me. But then I'm like putting on weight, so I shame myself. That's also me, right? Personally, right? Or if my wife looks at me sideways or even says something that I can interpret as criticism, a defensive part of me shows up, shuts me down, my shoulders go up, I avert my eyes, I can't even look at her. And all she's asked is if I took out the cat litter, right? Hey, you said you're gonna take out the cat litter? It wasn't done. Are you gonna do that? Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, oh, I'll get to it when I do. I'm a busy man, I got a lot going on. That's happening inside of me. But then I like shut down. That's a part of me, right? This defensive part of me. So again, so much of this is relatable because of course we're like, yeah, I guess I have an anxious part, I have a jealous part, I have a defensive part, I have a needy part, I have a stoic part, I have an overanalyzing part, I have an overly sensitive part, quote unquote, because I don't believe that we're overly sensitive, but we might label it as such. I have an ADHD part. This one throws it on its head. Neurodivergency is CPTSD. I've been able to touch and be with my ADHD part. And I have had clients with autism be able to speak and be with their autistic parts, the ones that are stuck in logic and rationalization. Not in all cases. I just want that to be known. But this allows you to go to such a deep level of who you are neurologically and as a human to actually be with this part of your psyche that is driving some kind of behavior. Just lost my light there for a second. So one thing that I want to share is the kind of framework of what are these parts, because we have labeled them in the world of IFS. You know, we all like to categorize things, we all like to label things. So our day-to-day protectors, we call them protectors right away, is any behavior that we have is protective in nature, up to a bit of a degree. So when you feel like you need to control things, when you feel like you are even anxious, when you feel like you're people pleasing, when you feel like you're uh, wanting to defend others and defend yourself, when you're fighting for justice and fighting for peace, peacekeeping, not rocking the boat, biting your tongue, whatever that might be, that's a protective part. And it probably makes sense a little bit, right? Like maybe if I get louder than you and can kind of overpower you, that's good. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished is that protects this little part of me that never had a voice, right? I don't have to feel weak. I can overpower you. I can be stronger than you, even verbally, right? That can resonate. Or on the flip side, if I just get quiet, bite my tongue, be a mouse, don't say anything, kind of make myself small and shrink, eventually the threat goes away. Again, that's protection. You learned how to do it at a young age. And so this part of you still does that for you, whether it's at work or in your relationship or whatever, right? So these are called protector parts. So we sometimes like to just simply say like, yeah, there's a protector here. I can tell there's a protector getting in the way of something, but then we like to go a little further and be like, well, what is that protector? Like, what is it protecting? There's a whole framework of getting to know it, but without complicating things, is you start to get a sense. Yeah, there's a part of me that literally won't let me talk right now. Right? Or yeah, there's a part of me that is, I'm distracted. I'm thinking about 1,000 other things right as my partner brings up maybe a feeling, right? So a lot of avoidant behavior, protective. Anxious attachment, protective, right? Scattered thinking, still protective. If I can distract you so hard, you're not present, that's protecting you from feelings of shame, embarrassment, loneliness. I mean, who knows? So then when there's this notion of protectors, we kind of categorize them in two different ways. One's called a firefighter, and that's going to be the part of us that puts out emotional fires at any cost. I was an alcoholic most of my life. I'm 8.5 years sober. So the drinking part of me was my firefighter protector. So at any point I felt shame or embarrassment or less than, I would drink. And then I would feel like Superman for a minute. And so that part of me learned to use alcohol as a tool. The client yesterday used pot as a tool. Pot, since she was 12 after her parents' divorce, numbed her, shut her down, made her foggy, right? In a lot of therapy circles and healing circles and coaching circles, we see these behaviors as disruptive. I understand why they are. Obviously, not much good came from me drinking, but emotionally, psychologically, a lot of good came from it. And what is so powerful about this work is you're able to, when you even name something as a protector, and this might resonate with you, a protector's kind of noble. A protector that's like a loyal guard dog. Like, yeah, he kind of, he's got a big bite, but he's loyal, protects our family at any cost. Is a protector is noble. A protector, there's a sense there of love, even, right? You don't really protect what you don't love for the most part. I mean, maybe if you're a hired bodyguard, whatever, but we won't get into the weeds. Is we protect what we love. So even in naming these parts of us a protector, it starts to show, oh, wait a minute, it's trying to do something for me, isn't it? It's trying to help me in some way. And it hopefully gets you in immediately a place of curiosity. I wonder how it's trying to help me. Like, you might hate it about you. You might hate that part of you. But if you can see it as a protector and not just like this shameful, broken personality trait, some shitty thing from my past trauma that's messed me up, but you see it as, huh, yeah, this is a behavior that's protected me in some way. I wonder how, right? So back to firefighter is anything that puts out an emotional fire at any given cost. Overeating, the overeating, it doesn't care about calorie intake. It doesn't care about your self-image. It cares about what it's trying to push you away from. It's trying to help fill up what was empty from a life of always being made fun of, neglected, rejected, maybe abandoned, right? Literally and figuratively, it fills you up, right? So for a moment, all you can think about is that dopamine rush of food. Alcohol, drugs, sex, overworking, over meditating, over exercising, all these things that can, in a moment, take you out of it, right? Take you out of the where you're at, take you out of that place of shame, panic, freeze. That's the work of a firefighter protector. And again, I think the imagery is nice because, firefighter puts out fires. And there's going to be this feeling of I can't handle this right now. I got to go do something. As soon as I got sober, it was I need to go to the gym. And that happens to a lot of people. Or I need to run, or I need to meditate. I need to go to yoga. And if it feels like there's this kind of almost frantic immediacy, that's that firefighter protector trying to do anything for you to try to help you to put out an emotional fire. But then on the flip side, there's the other set of protectors called managers. Now, the managers are what we come up against every day that we're blended with. By you signing up for this, a manager protector was doing that. Hey, we need help. This seems interesting. We watched some of those videos. It kind of resonates. Like, we want to try something that helps us, right? Other parts, you might be like, well, we got other things to do that day. I don't want to. This is just another thing, right? But there's that part of you that urged you to even show up today. That's a manager part of you. But day to day, the manager is the one that pushes you to achieve. The manager is the part of you that pushes you to people please, to control others' behavior, to control your behavior. OCD control, right? Think of a manager of a store managing things. And if you can think of that in your own world, you might be like, yeah, interesting. I definitely make sure that the T's are crossed all the time, I's are dotted all the time, right? But also they're preemptive helpers. So what they're doing, this is really important. The manager protector is preemptively putting up those safeguards because they don't want the shame and the embarrassment and the fear and the trauma and the wounding and the memories to come through. So it's constantly doing what it can to preemptively keep things safe. When they fail or things get too big, then that's when that firefighter comes into place. It's kind of like I always like to say here's like a wall or a defense. Here's the manager part, but here's all your trauma and your emotions and your shame and your embarrassment and your dissociation and everything. And it starts coming through. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. This is another part that is stuck in the past, that is traumatized. It kind of comes through the defenses of the manager. And there's those moments when you're feeling just shame ridden and just like you're broken. Like I'm a fuck up. I'm a loser. Nobody loves me. Everyone leaves. That's that feeling of that exiled pain coming through the manager's protective barrier. And then the firefighter comes in. So maybe that's when you pick up the bottle, smoke some weed, eat some food, go to the gym, work until your eyeballs are falling out, whatever it is, right? So that's that kind of dynamic. So think of your manager protectors as really most of the behaviors in your day that seem to be pushing you forward. Even the inner critic is a manager, is the inner critic is pushing you to be better. This is really vexing because a lot of people are like, I'm sorry if I'm swearing. We're all adults here, but it's like I fucking hate that part of me. It just cuts me down. I look in the mirror and all I hear is how much I'm a loser and I'm an idiot and I'm ugly, right? Or, oh, you fucked up. You shouldn't have said it that way, right? We all have, well, most of us have that voice in our head and we call it the inner critic, right? Probably thumbs up if you all kind of agree that you have a critical voice, right? Yeah. Parenting, right? Like parent guilt, relationship guilt. Everything's my fault. I'm to blame for everything, right? As much as it sounds kind of weird, is that critical voice as a protector. And it doesn't make sense initially. And this is really actually, I really want to focus on this piece because it can be the most vexing, is a critical part of you is protecting you, but how? It's just cutting me down. It makes no sense. I feel like shit. Like, how is that helping me? Well, if we get really quiet, how does it maybe stop you from doing something that could be embarrassing, right? I've always wanted to do karaoke. I've never done karaoke a day in my life because I'm too embarrassed to get on stage. I think I'll be laughed at and I'll look foolish. When I watch other people do karaoke, I'm embarrassed for them because I'm projecting my own fear. Inner critic is like, you are tone deaf. You're a terrible singer. Why the hell would you get on stage? Don't do it. And so it actually stops me from doing something that might embarrass me because then other parts of me, it knows other parts of me can't handle that embarrassment, right? This inner shame that I feel, this embarrassment that I feel. I also want to say a caveat. I'm using myself as a model here. These are all things that I have worked through in IFS therapy and being able to do this work. I just wanted you to know. But so these are all parts of me that I've met that are all real. So I just want you to know it's not all made up. These are my like frailties that I'm sharing, right? That I've been able to process and meet and work through. Just want you to know. And I want you to give you hope that none of these rule my life like they used to. So just to remind you there. So the inner critic is cutting you down, putting you down, shaming you. But why? To maybe stop you from doing something that other parts of your system couldn't handle. From pushing you to be nothing like your father or pushing you to be nothing like your mother. Mom guilt, this shows up a lot, right? Is you shouldn't have done it that way. You're a terrible mom. You suck. They're going to hate you. But what does that do? It makes you maybe even want to try harder. And there's something noble there because it's like maybe your mom or dad was a narcissist and sucked, and you don't want that for your kids, right? My wife gets trapped in that all the time, right? Because her mom, unfortunately, was awful to her. right? Is I want to be nothing like my mom. Same with my parents. I want to be nothing like my parents. And so the inner critic is actually pushing you to be nothing like them, right? In say one scenario for somebody, I had a billboard recording artist as a client, indie folk guy, uh, really cool. I won't say names, but he had this really hypercritical part of him that was crushing him, that he had no idea what to do with. And it turned out that it would embarrass him and make him feel foolish so that he would open up on stage so that people would give him empathy and compassion, because the underlying message was so that he mattered. And in session, we're like, whoa, slow down. Because we're talking to this part. I know it sounds kind of weird. Is in IFS therapy, you literally talk to these parts. You literally hear their story and get to know what the heck's going on with them, which is incredible. And we'll touch on that in a moment, the mechanics of it. But this part protected him from feeling like a nobody. It had him be memorable. People remembered his stage presence and his stories and him crying on his guitar, and got him sympathy and empathy and compassion and album sales. And that part that was critical, that made him feel like a wimpy loser, did that specifically so that he would feel important. And once that shift happened, and all of a sudden we saw the benefit of that, and then thanked the critic, for one, had never been thanked. Hey, Caitlin, thanks for joining. The critic had never been thanked by the system, because if you also think about it, the critic is hated by a lot of parts of you, right? Right? I hate that part of me. That critical voice, oh my God, I hate it. I want to get rid of it. And that critical voice is like, you fuck, I've been trying to help you from day one. And I'm tired. I'm stressed out. I'm trying to carry the load here, stop you from fucking up and embarrassing us. Right. And it sounds kind of like this weird dynamic, but when you actually look at it, like, yeah, shit, you've been trying to help me all these years. And so a lot of things start to shift when you can see a protective part of you, not as their problematic behavior, but as how they're trying to help you. That's truly when things start to shift and your self-worth starts to increase and your self-awareness starts to increase and your self-compassion starts to increase. And I bet it makes sense, right? Like if you could go to that part of you that you've not understood, that you've maybe been embarrassed by, or yeah, sure, you've heard yourself be like, I hate that part of me. And for the first time, if that part can hear this different voice coming through you of acknowledgement, of curiosity, of thanking that part, a lot can change, right? Even just you as a person, think about if somebody who you've always wanted their acknowledgement, probably a mom or a dad, right? Or a spouse, right? You've just wanted them to see you, right? What if you actually got the feeling and impression that they saw you? That might be really powerful, wouldn't it? Right? Yeah. And that's all we all need, but that's also what our parts need. And so when you can start to see that, okay, I've got these protector manager parts, they're trying to always save face, keep an even playing field, keep me steady. They're trying their best in all of their myriad ways to keep me from being excluded, from keeping me from feeling unimportant, unloved, all these things. They're trying to help me. Wow, they are trying to protect me, because deep down there is a little girl or a little boy that is hurting, that is scared, that is lonely, that was shamed, that was abused, that was rejected, that was neglected. And these manager parts are just trying their damnedest to keep that stuff from coming up. And then when they don't do their job very well, or they fail, because it happens, no one's perfect, even our parts aren't perfect, is then that firefighter comes in with their behaviors. And that's where you get to really be honest with yourself and be like, yeah, there's this thing I do anytime I'm overwhelmed or I'm stressed, or where I feel like I'm out of control. There's this like behavior I go to. The most common one now in 2025 is doom scrolling. Like I bet my work has come up while you're in the middle of a doom scroll, right? Or mindlessly scrolling. I'm there. It happens. What a safe, innocuous, almost non damaging way to check out of life is to just scroll. And I'm grateful for TikTok. It's my whole business, right? But the algorithm and everything is built for that. It just helps us constantly get that dopamine rush and be removed from our life. And then sometimes something sinks in, right? Something gets through the cracks and like wakes you up for a second, a little slap in the face. I'm like, okay, right? Like I'm grateful for TikTok because of course billions of people use it and so many people are sharing their message and everything. And it's a very powerful thing. But if you get it, right, you scroll, right? Funny cat videos, Taylor Swift videos, anger videos, like political videos, strife, stress, other people's trauma, right? You can kind of like live vicariously through other people's shit and like not really worry about your shit, right? Or it helps you connect. It helps you also feel connected to something, right? Because maybe in other parts of your life you feel lonely and isolated, and now you actually feel connected to the world, right? So there's a lot of beautiful things there, but again, it's still the behavior of our parts. Because when you listen, hey, what are you afraid would happen if I put down the phone right now? You might hear this voice like, then we'd have to face ourselves, or I don't want to look at that. Oh, we just had a fight. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about what our relationships crumbling in front of me. I don't want to look at that. Right? You might hear all these different answers inside of you. So, manager, protector, firefighter, protector. Who are they protecting? Well, then that's that third class of parts that we call exiles. And exiles is, I think, a really succinct word for our trauma wounds. They are exiled into the basement of our souls. They are pushed down so that we never have to feel that feeling again, right? That little girl, that little boy, like I've already said, that was abused, rejected, neglected, talked down to constantly criticized, right? Maybe constantly shown that they didn't matter, that the siblings were more important, or that mom and dad's emotions were more important, whatever it is. And CPTSD is interesting, right? As you all probably know, some of you might relate to physical abuse or sexual abuse, narcissistic abuse. Some might be like, I kind of had a pretty good life, but I constantly doubt myself, and I kind of realized that my parents never held space for me. As much as to somebody who maybe had a really big, violent, traumatic childhood might not relate to that, is the trauma is in not having your needs met. And so whether someone was hit or rejected or abandoned, the same person that maybe didn't have that, but their parents couldn't meet their needs, that creates so much stress on the young child. As a human being, we are not self-sufficient. We are completely dependent on a caregiver to take care of us. And that shows up in different needs being met or unmet, emotional needs, mental needs, food and eating and shelter and all that. So CPTSD is so interesting, and the exiles that we can start having in our system is so varied. And that's why, sadly, a lot of therapies and counseling and stuff miss the mark, or half the time don't really know what to do about it, because somebody could present as extremely self-aware. Oh, I know all my issues. I've got this on lock. I do my meditation rituals. I'm actually pretty good. That's a manager part of them, protecting them from getting into the muck. And a lot of therapy models either decide with it and say, yeah, I guess you're good. Like you seem to get your shit together. Like, you know more than me. I mean, this is great. Like you look like you're healed. Right. Or there's the whole other side where we're a frantic, hot, chaotic mess. And we seem like our life is falling apart at the seams, and we're so distraught that we also still can't even get help. Because a lot of these models aren't trained. And sorry, these like therapists and counselors and stuff aren't trained in understanding, well, what's happening underneath all of these things that are showing up in front of me on a Zoom call or in my office, right? Anytime you've gone to somebody and maybe a bit out of your mind, a lot of people don't really know what to do with it, because what's happening is you're stressed, you're anxious. Could be because a manager protector part is trying to keep you stressed and anxious so that you're so frazzled you can't actually sit with the crushing exiles feelings of loneliness and unlovability, right? Whatever it might be. So the exile is the little version of you. Well, I say little, not always little, right? You could have exiled parts from a abusive relationship as an adult, right? Your first marriage that went south, right? You could have wounds from that. So anything that your system pushed down, if that makes sense. Any event in your life where another part of you had to learn to stand up and take care of yourself, or we had to chin up, right? We got to push forward. We can't sit in this feeling. A lot of times when kids were parentified, they didn't get to be a kid. They had to take care of mom or dad or the siblings, right? So they had to exile or shove down their childlike sensitivities and their feelings and the scared feelings and all that. So when we, and this will be the note to you to know when maybe you're blended, and we use the word blended. This is an important word that I love using, is we get blended with any of these at any given time. We get blended with a protector manager, blended with a firefighter, blended with an exile. So now a way to know that you're blended with an exile is when you feel hopeless, powerless, helpless, when you feel the crushing weight of loneliness, that nobody cares about you, that you don't matter. If any of those feelings are coming through, or even inner narratives, that's actually the work of an exile. That's the voice of an exile, if you will. That little energy inside of you that is giving these feelings of helplessness, powerlessness, nobody loves me, etc. So the dynamic is such that our system, especially when we're traumatized, our system's constantly working in overtime. We're managing our behaviors, outcomes, other people's reactions, behaviors, the environment around us, so that we don't go into the shaming behavior of firefighting, which is then overeating, drinking, dating, sex, working, whatever. Dissociation is also the work of either a firefighter. It can take you out of the moment and shut you down and numb everything, right? Which is so common, obviously, with CPTSD. Or it can actually be the work of a manager protector. Oh, I can take you out of this to avoid this feeling. So there are nuances, as you can tell. You might be able, like, I had a part that would protect me from ever even considering talking about a shameful topic. I would dissociate. A lot of people, though, dissociate when the bad, scary thing or hard thing is happening. So it's kind of, everybody's a little different, but either way, I wanted to mention dissociation. It is actually the work of one of those protective parts, which is also really cool because it doesn't make us a victim to these common trauma symptoms, right? Oh, I'm dissociative. I can't really get help because I just dissociate. Cool. That's a protective part of you that's really doing a really good job of stopping you from being able to get to the inner stuff, isn't it? And when, again, we wake up to this kind of simple realities, is like, okay, so I could talk to my dissociative part. Yeah, I've had a lot of clients talk to their fogginess, right? Which sounds a little weird. The veil that comes up. There's like a lot of sessions where it's like, oh, it feels like there's a curtain in front of me. I can't get behind that. I don't know. Yeah, this is that feeling I get. It's like I'm out here. I'm in left field. It's like, cool. Do you want to spend time with that part? And it throws them off. I mean, I get it. It sounds kind of weird, right? It does. I'm not gonna lie. It obviously sounds kind of kooky. But when you're like, oh shit, I can actually just spend time with that dissociative part, or that highly anxious part, or that depressed part, a lot can change. Mhm. And sorry, there's a garbage truck outside, so I hope it's not distracting. Um, but so when you have the work of the exile's feelings coming up, the defensive, the powerlessness, the helplessness, the unlovability, and it's coming through, and your managers are trying to work overtime so you never have to really feel that. Appearance parts, so the parts that make you fit and healthy and pretty and wear makeup and whatever it is, right? Or just look good. Or for me, I used to be a banker, so I'd wear really nice suits and everything, and that would shield me from the memories of being a child to heroin addicts and that was in poverty all the time. I grew up in threads, right? In like hand-me-downs and all that stuff. Like, think of being in poverty. That was my life. As an adult, I discovered I could wear a suit and people thought I looked great, important, right? So again, we can have this kind of cape or like costume and uniform we can wear that is like a type of shield, right? That's also the work of a protector. So our exiles wounding comes through. The protectors, the managers are constantly managing our behavior, managing our life, managing our day-to-day. And then sometimes the firefighter comes through and puts out the flames, but then shame happens and it sparks this whole cycle. And that's why trauma and CPTSD is obviously so confusing. I get it, so overwhelming. It ruins relationships. Let's call spades a spade. I also don't want to sugarcoat any of this. CPTSD sucks. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, this is all really positive and it's all really good. No, it sucks. None of us should have been hurt this way, that this is what we're have to deal with as adults. Okay. Just want that known. But there has to be some hope here. So you can actually then kind of put like a stop in that cycle and that pattern that happens. And how do you do that? So that's the next little phase of this workshop. But so far, so I flap my gums long enough. Does that make sense so far? Did some of that kind of click or really resonate? Kind of make sense? Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Chris, Dante. Awesome. So, what do we do about all this? Why the hell are we here today? Right? Why, like, what's the point of all of this? Okay, we can name our parts. Cool. Naming our parts is actually really important. That's a really great first step. So, if you're making notes, I would say first step, name my parts, right? Because what does that do? That separates you from this part of you, but it also makes you not pathologize yourself like, oh, I'm crazy, I'm just anxious, I'm a people pleaser. It gives a little separation, right? So here's Chris, here's me, here's Andrew, here's Dante, Chrisana, right? Oh, mama, name not available. I just know your name, so that's okay. Is here's me, right? But then here is the people pleasing part of me. Oh, but now I'm a people pleaser. Like, where's Chris? I'm just this I said to my wife literally yesterday as I was talking about I went no contact with family that just I woke up to the realization how abusive and hurtful they were and I have excommunicated myself from them. But I realized, and in my first marriage and all this, that I was a plastic bag in the wind. That's really kind of how I lived my life. I was either just this like people pleasing, like bite your tongue, everything's fine, don't stand up for myself, whatever. I'll go this way, I'll go that way. You want to say I'm this way? I guess I'm that way. You want to tell me what to believe? Sure, I'll believe that. Like whatever. No like backbone, no sense of identity, no sense of who was I. And that's because there was me, and then all these different parts would just attach. And that happens with all of us all the time at any given point in our day. But IFS, finally, by even naming a part, helps it be like, okay, it's a part of me. Is a part the whole? No, like, right? It's not. It's a part of me. Say a part of me people pleases. Because you also know that there's other parts of you that don't people please, right? That dig your heels in, that don't give a shit what people think, that will do it your way anyway, right? Or behind closed doors, you're not a people pleaser, you're cussing them, you're starting to get resentful, right? You're angry that you've been saying yes when you want to say no, right? Again, that's that energy of like, shit, I've been blended with the people pleasing part of me because it has taken over to protect me in its way. But other parts of me are fucking tired of it. Like they hate it, right? Kind of back to that idea that there's these multiple parts. And again, you'll just know you're like, yeah, like I kind of just do what I want anyway, or I still kind of like self-sabotage things, and then I run back and I beg and I plead and right, I all these different things because you're just blended at any given point with a part of you, so that people pleaser part. Um, the controlling part, this is kind of really common with like corporate people, is controlling either in the house, but then at work, they're not controlling, or controlling at work, the leader, the alpha, whether male or female, but at home, they're not. It's kind of, it answers that question like, well, why? Like, why can we have such disparity in how we show up outside of the house and inside the house, if that makes sense? Like, why is there that disparity? Because at any given moment, a part of us is protecting us and has blended with us. So your kind of first step one is, can I name a part? Like, can I even, and we don't have to complicate it. Like, can I just get this idea that this is a part of me? Right? That's question one. And that's like step one. Yeah. Okay. My husband just said this thing and I can feel there's a defensive part of me. So where I'm challenging you is let's try to not say I'm defensive right now. You might just want to say I can tell I have a defensive part blending with me or coming online or triggered. or activated. These are some words that we like to use, right? Yeah, I can tell there's this part of me that's defensive right now. Or I can tell there's a part of me that's shut down. Um, yeah, I can tell there's a part of me that's really needy right now. I can tell there's a part of me that doesn't want to face my life right now. I can tell there's a part of me that XYZ, whatever it is. So that is literally step one, is to name a part. And you already do it, but now you'll actually do it with intention, if that makes sense. Right? There's a part of me that's just hurting and I don't know how to help it. It's sad all the time. Right? Why again it's a part is because there will be times when you're laughing and you're happy, maybe even for a minute. So it kind of just disproves that you're always one thing at all times. It's a part of you. So step one, naming a part. Pretty straightforward. But so then when you name a part, what does that hopefully start to create? In my opinion, that starts to create curiosity. And when we can have curiosity for ourselves and our experience and how we see the world, genuinely, that's where everything starts to change. I know it seems kind of simple, because there's a fourth quality to being human in the IFS world. It's called self. We like to call it capital S self. A lot of modalities will call it higher consciousness, higher self, higher power, right? So for us, we just like to say self. So there is the Chris when he was born, beautiful, perfect little boy, right? Wonderful. Then life happened. All these protective parts had to learn how to protect him, shut him down, right? Whatever it is, not to pick on you, Chris, but is is what was never lost was this sense of self. It was just clouded and covered up by all these protective parts. But when we start to unblend from a part at any given moment, then it becomes the self that we've all been waiting to meet, that we all have hoped was in us, right? Where we can love ourselves, where we can have compassion for ourselves, when we care about ourselves, when we can put ourselves first, right? That is in us. It's never been lost. It has always been there. And that's what makes this really cool, because it's not like you have to build up this muscle. It's just always been there. As soon as you unblend, as soon as you show or express a little curiosity towards yourself, that's self energy. And then that becomes this really cool thread you can start to like kind of pull at. Like, oh, can I get curious about this? Yeah, I can. I feel kind of at peace with it, actually. Like I'm not affected right now because I'm curious about it. And so the second step would be name a part. Can I get curious about that part? And that's a really, really important aspect. Can I name a part? And can I get curious about that part? And once curiosity starts to unfold, from there, you get to play around with that. What does curiosity look like? Usually asking questions, right? Like, oh, what's this? Why do you do this for me? Right? What are you wanting for me? So some questions, I'll help you so you're taking your notes. Some questions, once you can tell, and this is important, once you can tell that you're curious about this part of you that you've named, that's when you can start asking a couple questions. And let's keep it simple. So one question that I have my clients ask is, how do you help me? Simple, right? How do you help me? And now you can do this question through journaling, through closing your eyes and just asking it in your mind, through saying it out loud, maybe when you're alone so you don't look crazy, or do it with other people. Screw it, right? But either way is sensing that there's a part, feeling curious, and then asking, how do you help me? That's like that's just rudimentary, the bare bones, how to get there. But I will share what to do if you don't feel curious at first. This is the other key point. So let's say you've done step one, named a part. Cool. Step two, you're trying to get curious. Am I curious right now? But Jay, the guy on the thing, said, like, I should get curious. I don't feel curious. I hate this part. Cool. You've just met the part of you that hates that part of you that you're trying to get to know. Right? So then what you do is you ask that part to step back. Sounds kind of weird initially, but kind of simple. But if you can sense, and this is so common with like, I mean, most of our behaviors is we usually have another part that has something to say about another part of us. So, or maybe it's anxious. Oh, I all of a sudden got a cold sweat and a headache, and I don't want to do this. Cool. That's a part of you that doesn't want you to do it. So notice it. And this is where it's very simple is in that question of, am I curious about it? Can I get curious? Do I feel curious? It's pretty black and white. Yes, you do, or no, you don't. And so if you don't, that's where you just notice that energy and say, I'm not so sure, but can you back up whatever you are, who you're like, can I get curious, please? Like sometimes we like to say to like remind them nothing bad will happen, right? Doesn't hurt to have that little inner talk, kind of inner pep talk of, can you back up, please? I'd like to listen to this part. Nothing bad will happen. That might right away shock your system a little bit because maybe for the first time ever, there's actually this inner dialogue that feels like it's in a way taking a leadership role, even in a small way, right? But so, and I keep going through this, I won't lie to you, some of us are neurodivergent. Sometimes we need to hear something 3 times before we get it. If I am repeating myself, I'm sorry, but also it is going out to the masses. So trying my best to balance how I teach this, so to speak. But so step 1, name the part. Step 2, can I get curious about the part? Yes or no? If no, find that energy, ask it to back up. That's the simplest word. Back up, please. Or give me a little space. If one of those feels better to you, use whatever feels better. Then you might notice an actual shift in your system. You might notice an inch of space. That's curiosity taking hold. And then you go to that third step, that question of how do you help me? And so for the purpose of this workshop, I'd say that's good enough. Like we're going from being blended, anxious, spiraling, controlling, hyperfixating, catastrophizing. If we can slow down and ask these 3 questions, in my opinion, you're ahead of the game. And you might be shocked at actually how much it does for you in a small amount of time without it being too strenuous or stressful or too much to remember, right? So far, even just reading it on paper, the notes you guys taking, does it seem like that's practical or possible? Does it also kind of make sense why it might, work in a way? Yeah. Yeah. So I won't lie, there's so much more in IFS therapy. I mean, it's an entire therapeutic trauma healing method. Um, this is really just helping you understand the main structure and immediately hoping that you can see, oh, I'm not just all of my pain. I'm not just all of my crazy behavior. I'm not all of my anxiety, right? All these different things that we might label ourselves as, you now can say, like, that's a part of me that is doing this. And it's actually protecting me. I don't understand how or why yet, but somewhere deep down, I can tell it is protecting me. And then from that place, it just starts to open up this kind of inner cooperative energy, right? And so, one piece that I want to give hope to, if you ever decide to research this more, reach out to me or reach out to a local, maybe IFS therapist or anything like that, is not that this is just a little step to feel briefly better. I do want to share now how it is actually life changing. Are you guys with me for a few more minutes? Yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. And thank you guys so much for letting me be in your living rooms and kitchens and all that for a little bit here. So, a lot of people have read Gabor Mate, right? A lot of people have, seen him on videos. A lot of people have read When the Body Keeps the Score. Is it The Body Keeps the Score, right? Really popular trauma book. So the author of The Body Keeps the Score says that IFS therapy is the missing piece for people with, yeah, you're reading that right now, Chris. Cool. Right. Great book, right? Super great book. But the author of it says that IFS therapy is the missing piece to the puzzle for everybody. Life-changing. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Because finally we're getting like all this stuff named and it makes sense and we feel not so alone. So that's where hopefully this takes it to that next level, right? So when I said exiles, I realized I kind of glanced over that a little bit. That is the crux of why we might say we have CPTSD. That is our trauma. That is the part of us that was rejected and abandoned and neglected, right? That's the part of us that is hurt. And why the trauma happened is not exactly what happened. But maybe you've heard this before, but it's, was there an empathetic witness to your suffering? Was there a caring, compassionate adult that was able to stand up for you and help you and hear you after that pain? If no, then that's usually when it becomes the actual complex trauma, right? It's internalized, it's stuffed in, it's personified, it's made to mean all these things about you. It does frazzle your nervous system. It keeps you stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It activates increases of of cortisol levels. The stress levels go up, right? So you could have a traumatic event, a stressful event, but if you had a caring leader, a loving parent, a soft voice, a compassionate witness to your suffering, you actually probably wouldn't have trauma from that event, even if it was something really terrible. So many of us didn't get that, and that's why we're here today. But that's what the exile is holding. Okay, so that's what's so important. So that's what the exile is holding. What this work does is that step-by-step process I gave you briefly. What it does do is start to build inner trust. Because again, with CPTSD, we have trust issues. We don't trust anyone. We don't trust ourselves, right? But what this does is it starts to build that trust back up. When that trust is built up and in the proper framework, this is a necessary caveat. I'm not saying that you're just going to leave this and go to your deepest, darkest wounds and try to heal it. I would advise against that, right? 100%. But in, say, a therapy office or in a container, a healing container, or whatever kind of system is in place where you're getting that support, what you're doing is you're building trust and cooperation with your protective parts. They're starting to see and understand that there actually is a mature adult present. Because what happens with trauma and extreme stress is we get stuck in time. Your parts are frozen in time. And we know this literally. I'll ask my client, hey, can you ask how old this part is? And it's always pretty shocking. They'll get a number just kind of come through them like 6. Yeah, it said it's 6. I don't know. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, cool. It's 6. And like, I get it. I'm like, yeah, cool. It's a 6-year-old part. Young. Wow, that's a lot of responsibility for a child, right? It's managing all your behavior and making sure that you never upset anybody and bite your tongue and be a good boy or good girl. Wow, that's a lot. And then we ask this really important question. You don't have to necessarily, you can play with this 100%. But I asked the question of like, okay, can you ask this part how old it thinks you are? That's where sometimes we get some really curious answers. It thinks I'm 3. It thinks I'm 9. It thinks I'm 12. It thinks I'm 6. And so what happens is that just proves that this protective part of you is frozen in time, remembers the stress and the pain of that moment, and still thinks you're that vulnerable little child. And so that's why these protective measures seem so big and strong. So we then update it. Oh no, it's 2025. Like I'm 40. I actually am really resourceful. I'm a family man now. I have kids, like, and you kind of do this like updating. We call it, you just update the part. Even that alone sometimes brings down the stress and kind of brings your shoulders from up around your ears and eases that tension a little, because all of a sudden this childlike part of you realizes there's an adult present, right? Seems a little like slightly esoteric, but it also makes sense as a human. I'm sure you guys get that, right? So when that trust starts to get built, then IFS does this really powerful, beautiful thing that in layman's terms, you can say heals the trauma. We call it unburdening. So these exiles are burdened with the shame, with the pain, with the memories. They're burdened with the beliefs that are toxic about themselves, right? They're burdened by it. So when you can be in that curious place and you are in what we call self energy, right? You're able to attend to the parts of you that are freaking out, that have anxiety, that are pissed off, that are enraged, that are dissociating. It kind of sounds like a lot, but believe me, when you're in it, it's like this really cool dance that's happening. Is you're able to attend to this part, talk to that part, ask that part to back up, ask that part not to take over. And each and every time you're getting more and more self-energized. And then what that means is you can handle anything. You can go back into your subconscious and go back to that really dark, scary moment and not be overwhelmed because self can handle it. And that's actually what changes the game. Is there is that energy within you that can literally be with yourself at that time of pain, of trauma, of hurt. And so finally, for the first time, that wounded little energy in you, or young adult energy, whatever it is, whatever happened to you and you were stuck with it, that part of you finally gets an empathetic, compassionate witness to your suffering. And so in self energy, you're not actually trying to fix anything. We're listening. You're finally just there and present. You're being with that part. You're not fighting it. You're not trying to stuff it down. You're not trying to shame it. You're finally just with that little energy. And I won't lie, it is the most beautiful. It's what makes me do this every day. It's the most beautiful thing that happens is when the client, any of you, any of us, is able to be with that really vulnerable, wounded part of us at a really deep subconscious, kind of hypnotic, but yet super aware place. And then finally, for the first time, that little wound actually gets a voice. It gets to finally say what it's concerned about, what its fears were, who hurt it, right? You get answers to questions because your subconscious has always been recording. This is another part that is so vexing with trauma is, oh, I don't remember half of it, right? Oh, I forget most of my childhood. I don't know. I think I was abused. I don't know. It's all a bit murky, right? Like that's so common. That's all protective because we know exactly what happened to us. We do know exactly who hurt us. We know what happened. We have just protected ourselves from knowing that truth because at one point we couldn't handle it, right? But this is why it still controls our lives. So this work allows you to drop in at literally, like I said, a crazy subconscious level and be with that part of you. I've had people holding themselves as babies, which sounds fucked. I mean, it does. It sounds crazy, but it's so cool. There's this one woman, this Russian immigrant who was a lawyer, ran a big firm, all this stuff, and really like kind of tough and like, emotions have no place here and all this stuff, slowly boiling it down and melting her and softening her to the place where her parts really trusted her. And yeah, literally, I just remembered I had goosebumps each time is she's like, oh, I'm seeing a crib. Okay. Yeah, can you go to it? Yeah, this is my crib. Wow, it's like familiar. I can feel it. I'm there. There's a storm outside. Yeah, and I was afraid of the dark. And she's crying. It's like, yeah, pick her up. Like, does that feel okay to do? And anyway, long story short, she's literally there, like rocking herself as a baby. I mean, it's wild because that baby was actually in a really scary situation. There was some fighting happening with mom and dad. She was hearing the voices. And it scientifically makes sense. Our subconscious has always recorded, even when we're in comas, right? There's all those stories of people coming out of a coma being like, no, I heard you talking, right? That's because if we have an active brain and the brain waves are working, the electrons and neurons are working, we're recording and memorizing and present to everything. So it's really, really cool and crazy at the same time, but really powerful. So when that happens, though, think of the word burden. When you're unburdened, you're lighter, right? I've seen like clients like be like, yeah, da, 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 and then slowly like, yeah, da, 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 da. I'm like, what's happening right now? Like, oh, he's getting bigger. He's happier. He's playing for the first time, and now you're literally like shifting. Again, I got goosebumps talking about it. I've bared witness to it so many times. But physically, they start to shift because they're literally unburdening. The weight is actually leaving their shoulders. And energetically, because we're energy beings, right? If you're at all remotely spiritual or what have you, you kind of get it. Like we're energetic beings, right? This trauma is all trapped in there. It's energy, right? Shows up in our body, shows up in our memories and our thoughts and behaviors. Unburdening lets it go finally. And so IFS has this really cool ceremony kind of that we do of unburdening. And when that happens, 100% of the time, that client feels lighter, better, more present, more grounded, right? More self-aware, more self-trusting, all these really, really beautiful things. So that is what makes this work so cool, is that it's everyday practical. I mean, you can take that little list right now and play around with it, right? After this call, be like, what was coming up for me on that call? Like I was kind of feeling triggered here and there. What was that? And I get curious about it, right? And you start playing around with that list. So it's practical. You can go to the bathroom and you can do what I call parts work. You can attend to yourself on the drive. A client that I just got off the phone with before this was like, it was mind blowing. I was heading to the gym and I was so pissed off at my ex, and how dare she like disrespect me that way? And I heard this voice that was just flipping out. I'm driving, and finally I could hear myself be like, "Hey, slow down, stop. Like, don't overwhelm me right now. I want to listen to you, but we gotta slow down, man. What's going on?" And then he had internally this conversation. Well, why do they treat us as no one respects us? No one? Yeah, no one. Dad didn't, mom didn't. And now he's having this conversation with this really pissed off, hurt part of him that initially was putting the anger on his ex, but now it's this part that just is pissed off that nobody respected him. And he's like, within 10 minutes, I felt so grounded and at peace and like and fine. When before I was literally a spiraling, I could have ran someone off the road. Like I was gonna punch someone, right? So really cool. So it's very applicable day to day, but then it heals the actual trauma that has caused all of this, mess in the first place by that unburdening ceremony. So it's really powerful because it's somatic. So you feel your parts. Oh yeah, tension in my chest, heaviness in my head. Yeah, I've got a headache, right? Like I've worked with people with arthritis and their C-reactive protein levels and their inflammation has gone down. Their rheumatologists are like, "What are you doing different?" And it's like, I'm doing this like IFS trauma healing. I don't know. I feel better. Like actually, and there's even a study in the IFS Institute. They took a bunch of people in Boston that had arthritis and showed a 78% reduction in like arthritic symptoms, because so much of autoimmune disease is tied to emotional pain. Um, if you don't know that, definitely look it up. If you kind of are aware of that and it makes sense, then that's true. ALS, lupus, arthritis, every storyline of anybody with those diagnoses, there's going to be a trauma background, some form of trauma background. So this work is somatic, it's spiritual, it's practical, it's thought-based, it's emotional-based, and it's trauma healing-based. And admittedly, there's nothing really like it. I know this kind of sounds like like a spokesman for the model, but I've tried everything myself. Hypnosis, hypnotherapy, EMDR, CBT, empowerment coaching, like Tony Robbins style, like, seize the day kind of coaching. Nothing made sense to me or helped me connect to me and make me feel better than IFS therapy or parts work. So it absolutely is life changing and absolutely can be life saving. I've also had people meet their suicidal parts and realize that that's a part of them trying to protect them. And when we can even go to that level and humanize and have compassion for every single part of us, everything changes. So that's probably enough for me. I can get off my pulpit. But how does it all land for all of you? Does it kind of, again, I mean, it resonates. I'm getting a lot of head nods, which is always like wonderful. But in the question box, if you want, I mean, I'm here for you guys. Like, I've talked a lot, but any questions, anything at all? Does anyone have a curiosity? Anything we've talked about that maybe there's something you want to challenge, or do you want me to clarify or give a little insight onto anything? If you feel comfortable, hit the chat box and I'd be honored to answer your question. Yeah, anything at all. It can be through text or it can be through voice, whatever works, and no pressure. Pardon me. So TBK, the body keeps the score. Yeah. Has anyone else read The Body Keeps the Score? Yeah. Mark, you have? Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Any books? Yeah. So Chris, that's good. I was before this call, I was like, what would a book recommendation? So No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. It's his so Richard Schwartz is who created IFS therapy. So No Bad Parts is kind of the cornerstone of it. It's a really simple, easy to read, practical book that completely dives into IFS therapy from the voice of the actual creator of it. So No Bad Parts. And that's also really cool. So quickly, my ADHD, I jump around a little bit. A really cool thing about this too, as you can kind of tell, is We don't shame or judge or criticize ourselves over time as we do this more and more, because we start to realize that there are no bad parts. This obviously has ruffled feathers because people kill people. People hurt each other. What? Of course there's bad parts. This is where, if we break it down, there is bad behavior. I don't really love good or bad, but whatever. There's bad behavior. But why? Hi, Dante. I think the microphone came on. If you had a question, cool. Sorry, not to call you out, but I just didn't also want to have you share anything that maybe you don't want somebody to hear. Anyway, so the nature of this work is that there are no bad parts. There is bad behavior. There is wrong behavior. There is hurtful behavior. But why that part did it isn't actually bad. And I know it sounds hard to wrap your head around. Let's first take things that are more self. So again, drinking, I was an alcoholic. Is that good? Oh, pretty easy to say, no, that's not good. But as I got to know the part of it and why it used alcohol as a tool, you start to realize how it's helping you and protecting you. I have worked with this one guy did hire me because unfortunately he hit his wife twice, and it scared him and really scared his wife, and they were on the rocks. She was about to divorce him. And so this part of him that hit her, the rage he felt, the action, not okay, not acceptable. But why that part did it, as I got to know the history and how he was able to share it, and then we started to have empathy for it, not a bad part. Misaligned destructive behavior, not a bad part. And again, that really starts to shift how we see ourselves, right? Chris, yeah, you can gain access to it. Once it's recorded and downloaded, I will be emailing it off to people. The friend that recommended this workshop, just let me know, a few people didn't receive the link to this meeting. Well, thanks, Christina, for letting me know that. Yes, again, it'll be a link in my bio. You can click at any time, but then also I'll be emailing it directly to all of you. Yeah, so that's hopefully answers that. So No Bad Parts, amazing book. And then another really, really cool book, a necessary one that I want you guys to know about, is one called Self Therapy. It's by Jay Early. He's an IFS practitioner. It becomes an extremely practical, like you'll see yourself in that book, and it's a ton of very practical exercises where you can start implementing some of this immediately. So yeah, Self Therapy by Jay Early. Both of those, pick them up at Amazon for $20. Like, super cool. And then like kind of meta and like bigger picture, Gabor Mate, he just wrote a book called The Myth of Normal. I love it. It's one of my favorite books. It breaks down society, politics, culture, capitalism, but all from a personal trauma lens. He was a doctor, and what he saw really shaped how he saw the world and saw people and trauma. So it's a really special book. So Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal. Those are my three like kind of holy grail books. And The Body Keeps the Score was obviously just so fantastic. But yeah, so those are the book recommendations that I would toss out to you guys. Yeah. Any other questions, Andrea?
How do you differentiate the parts between the ADHD stuff and the CPTSD? I'm waiting to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
But I know there's not a lot of overlap. And
Yeah,
so
totally.
when do you figure that out? That no, this is actually ADD procrastinating and not my fear part procrastinating.
Totally. Great point, right? So I can speak on my experience, and then a few others, was the ADHD, when we got to know that part, helped by being so distracted and scattered, right? By doing one thing, trying another thing, putting one thing down, starting another one. The CPTSD is that dissociation, the depersonalization, the checked out of the world, the crushing anxiety, the waking up with dread. That's more aligned with like that CPTSD, the helplessness, the feeling that people leave all the time. So CPTSD is definitely feelings based and emotional, so much of it, as much as it shows up neurologically. But that's again for me what helped me understand is I would feel this shame, which was ADHD shame, not being understood, right? Trying to explain myself. Why am I late again? Man, I wish I knew, right? Why do you do that thing? Right? Why is this a strange behavior that I don't understand? Why are you doing it? I wish I had an answer to you. I don't know. And it's stressful. And there's that shame. So that's ADHD shame. Um, but primarily when I met my parts, it was actually kind of funny going inward. My part looked like a Doc from Back to the Future. Uh, so you kind of see the movie. He was in like a closet, just throwing things around, and I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hey, what's going on?" He's like, everything's got to go. We're stressed." And slowly getting to know him, he's like, "I just keep you frazzled so that you don't have to essentially look inward." Because my wife and I, like, sometimes we'd have stress and tension. There's this part of me that always thinks that I'm going to be left. And so this ADHD kind of doc part was keeping me so scattered and checked out and all over the place and pacing that I wasn't able to be present, right? I wouldn't slow down. So that's how it showed up for me, by being able to connect it to a part, in that sense of the word. So yeah, CPTSD, a lot of the emotional stuff, waking up with dread, crushing anxiety, like just total catastrophizing, and then ADHD, not always just scattered and not classic ADHD behaviors, but when it feels a bit more like it's taking you out in that moment, keeping you distracted and frazzled, right? That's kind of that ADHD vibe, the deep emotional, like the feeling that you're unworthy and all that. Now, why they're kind of blended, it's hard because as a kid, if we had ADHD, we did things that ostracized us. People didn't get us. And so we did get pushed aside, made fun of, bullied, or just not understood. So that's why the crossover is so important, to try to separate from a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I just see it as we were hurt and our brain adjusted in many different ways. And a lot of ways ADHD and CPTSD overlap and kind of look similar. I would say most of my clients, 90%, either have been diagnosed with ADHD or are pretty sure they have ADHD. So there's 100% like a connection between the early childhood trauma and how our brains developed. Like, obviously, like, it's kind of seems cut and dry. But yeah, so I hope that answered it a little, Andrew. Yeah, cool. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yeah, and anyone else, I mean, no pressure. I also, like, you guys have been so gracious with your time too. I respect that you've spent 90 minutes with me. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and then we can wrap up.
Can I ask two questions?
Yeah, yeah.
So one of them is that my parents are very elderly now, and one of them's got dementia now,
Yeah,
and that's re-triggered my
yeah,
CPTSD,
yeah,
and I'm not coping with that.
yeah.
And also another question is I've just started studies, and my tutor is really triggering because she talks down to me.
Okay. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. I mean, first, heart out to you. I mean, seeing a parent with dementia is hard, even if that parent maybe also was an abuser of some kind or neglected you in some kind. The child parent bond is never gone. That's what is also so vexing, is we might go no contact, we might hate our parents, but still have them in our life and still feel so uncomfortable around them, but still feel this honor, this sense of duty, right?
It's ironic because I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't. So I think for you, just right there, from not knowing the whole picture, Mark, I bet there's parts of you that are protecting you from letting them in again. There's parts of you
Oh yeah,
protecting you.
I
Yeah,
don't want to let him in at all.
exactly. Right. But there might be this other part of you that's maybe sympathetic to them or happy that they're have this lot in life. That's where we get really honest with ourselves. We might see, like, is there a part of me that's relieved that they're now not who they were, or relief that I don't have to be responsible for them anymore, or I don't want them in my life, right? Like, whatever it might be, it's easy enough, Mark, for you to sense that there is a part that's protecting me. Sometimes too, there's the part that will protect us from seeing the humanity and even the people that hurt us, right? If we, and like, forgiveness is the F word, is if we forgive, right? If we forgive, it's going to validate how they treated us, and I don't want to do that. So if we can look at that, it's like those are parts of us that are kind of helping us see the world that way. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that, well, what if we got to know that part a little more? And the hope for IFS2 as a global thing is, what if we saw the good in more people? I mean, my parents, it was awful, but like, what if I could see where they were struggling and how their parts affected their life and how they parented me? Could I have more compassion? And I can say that, well, yeah, I did have more compassion. They're both gone now. They both died at a young age. But yeah, I have compassion for them. Doesn't mean I forgive. Doesn't mean I deny the hurt that I had to go through. So, Mark, for you, doesn't mean that if you have any compassion for them at all, it doesn't take away how they hurt you, doesn't invalidate your experience. But it, of course, kind of still lends the light of the thing that I say in a lot of my videos: the light in me sees the light in you, right? There is a light in all of us.
I think I have a different effect.
Yeah.
I don't know like why, but I
Yeah.
feel I'm scared once they die that I'll be helpless.
Yeah, that speaks volumes.
And I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Exactly. That speaks volumes. Now, Mark, what I would invite you to do if you feel comfortable remotely is email me. I mean, I would love to, because of course I could talk all day to you about that. But if you'd like, so that it's also a bit more private too, if you want to just email me. But either way, and all of you can maybe sense that is, if they go, part of me will feel helpless. Well, yeah, that'll be that young part of you that needed them and didn't have them, and now they're gone actually. Now what? And then other parts you're going to scramble to try to make up for that, right? So as you might be able to tell, if you're able to get curious about any of those parts happening with your parents, you might start to get a couple little answers. Or maybe you just see that it's a little 5-year-old Mark. And it's like, hey, buddy.
I know you picked that age because that when you said about picking the age, that was the age I actually came with.
Interesting. Yeah, right. So, and that's so powerful because, yeah, there's just a little 5-year-old Mark in there that is scared. And as much as logical minded adults, right, we're like, no, there's no way that's real. Of course it's real. You feel it. I feel helpless. Does a mature, capable, able-bodied adult, unless you're like literally in like a really scary, violent situation, do you really feel helpless? Or is it a young child who had no skills, no abilities, no resources? Yeah. And so that's why it's a young part of you. And then the tutor that speaks down to you, sadly, again, the trigger just makes sense. You were probably spoken down to, and obviously maybe not given a voice, right? Maybe your feelings, thoughts, opinions didn't matter, right? And so what will happen though is that real trauma, the real reaction of how our parents usually treated us when we're young, yes, present day triggers will happen where this tutor reminds you of that feeling. And that's that work of that protector, right? That's the work of that protector watching, hyper vigilant, right? Is this person going to hurt us? Is this person going to put us down? Oh, she reminds me of this, right? So that's where, yeah, just email me, Mark, and that'd be so cool. I'd love to. I happily will just like maybe break down things better for you and give you some options and resources and all that. So for now, yeah, this was Bloody. You just joined. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, Bloody. You just joined. We're just wrapping up, but it's all been recorded, so you'll get a copy of it. Yeah. So, but thanks for showing up and taking the time to even do that. So guys, I just, from the bottom of my heart, so grateful for all of you. Now one little thing that I can share with you is, yes, what do? I'm an IFS inner healing coach. I help people from all over the world heal their trauma through exactly what we talked about today. I have an online course. I have a short-term 3-session intensive, and I also have a longer-term full wraparound level of support that is really, really powerful. If any of you are curious about what does that look like, because maybe you like the cut of my jib and the vibe is cool. If you're curious, you just want to know what it might look like to work together, or if you just have questions for me, just email me. I answer every single email. I answer every DM. I'm here for all of you in whatever way you'd like me to be here for you. So if I can answer any questions after this, please email me, reach out. If you are curious, what does it look like to have this kind of support? Let's talk, right? There's no pressure, but I just am so grateful that you all took this time to be with me today. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah. And the light in me truly does see the light in all of you. How we were hurt wasn't our fault. How we behave, we can control. We can actually do something about when we go to these parts of us that are hurting and that are reactive. So bless all of you, and just yeah, thank you so much for making my day a little brighter. And if you need or want anything, like I said, please just email me, DM me if you're in TikTok or Instagram, and we'll go from there. So you guys are incredible, and enjoy the rest of your day. Be as gracious to yourselves as you can. Be gentle. Try to be kind, and number one is try to be curious about yourself, and that'll be a great start. So thank you all so much. Okay, enjoy the rest of your